Hello and welcome to Bookspot. I'm Earl Wyenberg. This time we will conclude our reading of The Rolling Stones by Robert Heinlein. Chapter 19, The Endless Trail. Hazel had used an ancient fakir's trick, brought to the West, so it is said, by an entertainer called Houdini, of breathing as shallowly as possible and going as quickly as may be into a coma. To hear her tell it, there never had been any real danger. Die? Shucks, you couldn't suffocate in a coffin in that length of time. Sure, she had had to depend on Lowell to keep up the cry for help. He used less oxygen. But deliberate suicide to save the boy? Ridiculous. There hadn't been any need to. It was not until the next day that Roger Stone called the boys in. He told them, "You did a good job on the rescue. We'll forget the technical breach of confinement to the ship." Castor answered, "It wasn't anything. Hazel did it, really. I mean, it was an idea we got out of her serial, the Skew Orbit episode." I must not have read that one. "Well, it was a business about how to sort out one piece of space from another when you don't have too much data to go on. You see, Captain Sterling had never mind. That's not what I wanted to talk about with you. You did a good job, granted, no matter what suggested it to you. If only conventional search methods had been used, your grandmother would unquestionably now be dead. You are two very intelligent men when you choose to take the trouble. But you didn't take the trouble soon enough, not about the gyros." "But Dad, we never dreamed." "Enough." He reached for his waist. The twins noticed that he was wearing an old-fashioned piece of apparel, a leather belt. He took it off. "This belonged to your great-grandfather. He left it to your grandfather, who in turn left it to me. I don't know how far back it goes, but you might say that the Stone family was founded on it." He doubled it and tried it on the palm of his hand. "All of us, all the way back, have very tender memories of it, very tender, except you two." He again whacked his palm with it. Castor said, "You mean you're going to beat us with that?" "Have you any reason to offer why I shouldn't?" Castor looked at Pollux, sighed, and moved forward. "I'll go first. I'm the older." Roger moved to a drawer, put the belt inside. "I should have used it 10 years ago." He closed the drawer. "It's too late now." "Aren't you going to do it?" "I never said I was going to." "No." The twins swapped glances. Castor went on, "Dad, Captain, we'd rather you did." Pollux added quickly, "Much rather." "I know you would. That way you'd be through with it. But instead, you're going to have to live with it. That's the way adults have to do it." "But Dad..." "Go to your quarters, sir." When it was time for the Rolling Stone to leave for Ceres, a good proportion of the community crowded into City Hall to bid the doctor and her family goodbye. All the rest were hooked in by radio, a full town meeting. Mayor Fries made a speech and presented them with a scroll which made them all honorary citizens of Rock City now and forever. Roger Stone tried to answer and choked up. Old Charlie, freshly bathed, cried openly. Meade sang one more time into the microphone, her soft contralto unmixed this time with commercialism. 10 minutes later, the Stone drifted out orbit and back. As at Mars, Roger Stone left her Circum-Ceres, not at a station or satellite. There was none, but in orbit. Hazel, the captain, and Meade went down by shuttle to Ceres City, Meade to see the sights, Roger to arrange the disposal of their high-grade and core material, and for a cargo of refined metal to take back to Luna. Hazel to take care of business and pleasure on her own. Dr. Stone chose not to go on Lowell's account. The shuttle was no more than an oversized scooter with bumper landing gear. The twins were still under hatches, not allowed to go. Meade assured them on return that they had not missed anything. "It's just like Luna City, only little and crowded and no fun." Their father added, "She's telling the truth, boys, so don't take it too hard. You'll be seeing Luna itself next stop anyway." "Oh, we weren't kicking. Castor said stiffly. Not a bit, insisted Pollux. We're willing to wait for Luna. Roger Stone grinned. You're not fooling anyone. But we will be shaping orbit home in a couple of weeks. In a way, I'm sorry. All in all, it's been a good 2 years. Meade said suddenly, Did you say home, Daddy? It seems to me we are home. We're going back to Luna, but we're taking home with us. Eh? Yes, I suppose you're right. The good old Rolling Stone is home, looked at that way. She's taken us through a lot. He patted a bulkhead affectionately. Right, Mother? Hazel had been unusually silent. Now she looked at her son and said, Oh, sure, of course. Dr. Stone said, What did you do downside, Mother Hazel? Me? Oh, not much. Swapped lies with a couple of old timers and sent off that slew of episodes. By the way, Roger, better start thinking about storylines. Hey, what was that, Mother? That's my last. I'm giving the show back to you. Well, all right, but why? I'm not going to find it so convenient now. She seemed embarrassed. You see, well, would any of you mind very much if I checked out now? What do you mean? The Helen of Troy is shaping up for the Trojans, and the Wellington is matching there for single H and a passenger, me. I'm going on out to Titan. Before they could object, she went on, Now don't look at me that way. I've always wanted to see the rings close up, close enough to file my nails on them. They must be the gaudiest sight in the system. I got to thinking right seriously about it when the air was getting a little stuffy back you know when. I said to myself, Hazel, you aren't getting any younger. You catch the next chance that comes your way. I missed one once, Roger, when you were 3. A good chance, but they wouldn't take a child, and well, never mind. So now I'm going. She paused, then snapped, Don't look so much like a funeral. You don't need me now. What I mean is, Lowell is bigger now and not so much a problem. I'll always need you, Mother Hazel, her daughter-in-law said quietly. Thanks, but not true. I've taught Meade all the astrogation I know. She could get a job with 4 planets tomorrow if they weren't so stuffy about hiring female pilots. The twins, well, they've soaked up all the meanness I can pass on to them. They'll put up a good fight, whatever comes up. And you, son, I finished with you when you were in short pants. You've been bringing me up ever since. Mother. Yes, son, what's your real reason? Why do you want to go? Why? Why does anybody want to go anywhere? Why did the bear go over the mountain? To see what he could see. I'd never seen the rings. That's reason enough to go anywhere. The race has been doing it for all time. The dull ones stay at home, the bright ones stir around and try to see what trouble they can dig up. It's the human pattern. It doesn't need a reason any more than a flat cat needs a reason to buzz. Why anything? When are you coming back? I may never come back. I like free fall. Doesn't take any muscle. Take a look at old Charlie. You know how old he is? I did some checking. He's at least 160. That's encouraging at my age. Makes me feel like a young girl. I may see quite a few things yet. Dr. Stone said, Of course you will, Mother Hazel. Roger Stone turned to his wife. Edith? Yes, dear? What's your opinion? Well, there's actually no reason why we should go back to Luna, not just now. So I was thinking, but what about Meade? Me? Said Meade. Hazel put in dryly, They're thinking you are about husband high, hon. Dr. Stone looked at her daughter and nodded slightly. Meade looked surprised, then said, Pooh, I'm in no hurry. Besides, there's a patrol base on Titan. There ought to be a lot of young officers. Hazel answered, It's a patrol research base, hon. Probably nothing but dedicated scientists. Well, perhaps when I get through with them, they won't be so dedicated. Roger Stone turned to the twins. Boys? Castor answered for the team. Do we get a vote? Sure. Roger Stone grasped a stanchion, pulled himself forward. Then it's settled. All of you. Hazel, boys, Meade, set up a trial orbit. I'll start the mass computations. Easy, son. Count me out on that. Son, did you check the price they're getting for single H here? If we're going to do a cometary for Saturn instead of a tangential for Earth, it's back to the salt mines for me. I'll radio New York for an advance, then I'll go wake Lowell and we'll start shoveling gore. Well, okay. The rest of you, mind your decimals. All stations were manned and ready. From an instruction couch rigged back of the pilot and co-pilot, Meade was already running down the countdown. Roger Stone glanced across at his mother and whispered, "What are you smiling about?" "And 5, and 4, chanted Meade. "Nothing much. After we get to Titan, we might..." The blast cut off her words. The stone trembled and threw herself outward bound towards Saturn. In her train followed hundreds and thousands and hundreds of thousands of restless rolling stones. To Saturn, to Uranus, to Pluto, rolling on out to the stars, outward bound to the ends of the universe. That was The Rolling Stones by Robert Heinlein. Science fiction is a big field with a lot of material in it, but it doesn't have much poetry. It does, though, have some poetry. And here we're going to give you a sampling. First is a poem on the death of Willy Ley. Willy Ley was a science fiction and science writer who did much to popularize space exploration, but died the month before we got to the moon. Plaint on the Death of Willy Ley. Only a month before the dream comes true that all his life was shaped to and his labor, death unannounced as lightning from the blue has struck his hand from the cup about to brim. If naught exists but what we touch and see, nor hells nor heavens there where the pulsars quaver, of a God unreal we ask what cannot be. Grant afterlife, just for a month. For him. He built his rockets while the Zeppelins flew, and worked as many years as Moses wandered to teach the promise of a world still new, a shining land not barred by seraphim, a shore that we may touch as well as see, where in a month men will at last have landed. We wish what we cannot believe, that we live past our death, just for a month, for him. Now the moon waxes broad above that crew who will, as next the sun lights Alphonse crater, send back a month too late the Paisach view. He earned so well, missed by a span so slim, of what he taught us they would touch and see. Might he but watch the skies of their equator, our lungfish in the sea tranquility. Might a heaven be, just for a month, for him. Think of a man. Think of a man and think he's much like you, who cups like gems in memory's hand the stars, and maybe says, this one that blazes blue shone down, near crisped me on the Canis wars. I was decorated, medal and 3 scars. Next came this yellow, Procyon. By its light I spent some gritty months in desert cars, drank up my pay, and hoped there'd be no fight. And then to Pollux, not so bright, but warm, just like the girl I met there. Comfort, though, can get damned dull. My dress whites were the charm that kept her, and I shed them, shed her so. A merchant ticket hauled me, come and go, a dozen times round Castor and Capella. Castor's this green one, dazzled on the snow that slipped me up and cracked my fool patella. I thought I'd liked it dirt side, learned to gamble, the one sure way to win, got paid to deal. That got dull. I took a little amble to this one, Arc Blue Regulus, to feel once more the Thraumann's urge of driven steel. Sudden I hated Daystar never changing, and suns at night held all to one round wheel. I knew for me there'd be no life but ranging. Think then of such a man, who gems his thought with Mizar's emerald, Vega's diamond gleam, Arcturus topaz. Wealth he's fairly bought with nothing less than heart blood. Let him seem grown old with darting eyes whose corners teem wrinkles, to laugh like dawn or weep like dew. Hell tested, heaven blessed, He lives his dream. Think such a man, and think he might be you. Look up. Look up above the Saturn's prow and past the Sputnik lanes, where captains venture even now to chart new reefs and mains. Look beyond lands of fume and stone to where the endless deep promises yet to be a zone where men may sow and reap. Look, waiting for our empery, where stars like beacons stand, the spacious island-worlded sea, the ports of Morrowland. Conjunction. How pale is Venus in the lingering light, when sun is set, but day is not yet done, while in the thronging lights of middle night, great Jupiter has splendor matched by none. But watch them now, as in the western sky, along the paths for them aforetime set, he night by night strides lower, she more high, until the stars of power and love are met. Behold, as night around them darkens, how Queen Venus' glory overmasters Jove. No doubt the truth of what we witness now on earth below as in the skies above. For as each subject to the king must bow, so even kings must bow them down to love. And all those poems were by Karen Anderson. Thank you.